I am not surprised, frankly. I would have been astounded, and that is putting it mildly, if indeed anything had come out of the investigation in trying to locate or find where Prageet Eknaligoda is. It is 3 years now since he went missing. It is 4 years since Lasantha Vikramatunga was murdered in January 2009. Prageet is just another what should I say, another victim of authoritarian rule that is now dominant in Sri Lanka, where there is no accountability, where there is absolutely no protection of human rights, and where the current government, led by President Mahinda Rajapaksa, really does not care about the rule of law or observing any kind of principles in terms of good governance and democracy. So yes, so unfortunately, I fully believe that nothing will come out of a superficial investigation in trying to find Prageet. Prageet will remain missing. You know that the statement made by Mohan Piris before the UN Human Rights Council on that day was absolutely shocking and disgraceful for a man of his stature, coming from a lawyer, former Attorney General, and today Mohan Piris is the Chief Justice of Sri Lanka. Um, as I said, you know, his statement was absolutely disgraceful, as has been his conduct as a lawyer and as a judge. Um, and he just went before the courts and basically, you know, retracted his statement or couldn't stand by what he said. So Mohan Piris has clearly displayed that he is just another political stooge of the Rajapaksa regime. You see, in my opinion, Mohan Piris, if he was ethical and a man of principle, he should not even have accepted the post of Chief Justice. In the background of how the previous Chief Justice, Shirani Bandaranayake, was removed from office. I mean, the removal or the impeachment of Shirani Bandaranayake is a clear indication of where a president has abused his powers or his executive powers, where Parliament is no longer even being held accountable or being responsible as a legislative body. The former Chief Justice Shirani Bandaranayake was removed unconstitutionally. There was no independent tribunal. There were no real charges proved against her. And a chief justice, for that matter, no judge, can be removed from office in the manner that she was removed. As a result, Mohan Piris should, as I said, if he was a man of any ethics or principle, should never have accepted that post of Chief Justice. It is an absolute disgrace. My case only further exemplifies the government's continuing strangled hold on media, particularly privately owned media in Sri Lanka. The case of the Sunday Leader is a classic example of the government having manipulated a political stooge in the form of Asanga Seniviratne to purchase a majority share in this newspaper. And the Sunday Leader has fallen victim, as have all other privately owned newspapers in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, to a presidential authoritarian rule. There is no longer an independent and free media. Journalists and editors and publishers are too afraid to buck this government. There have been too many frightening examples. As I said, Lasantha Vikramatunga was one. And even after the war was won, in 2011, we had the case of the news editor of the Jaffna-based Udayan newspaper, Mr. Kuhanathan, who was brutally assaulted. He almost died. We've had new other journalists who have been threatened, who have been intimidated, like myself. I was abused in absolutely foul language by none other than the Defense Secretary, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, in July last year. And Mr. Rajapaksa is also a president, is a brother of the president. He went so far as to tell me that 90% of the people in Sri Lanka would want to see me dead or would want to have me killed. So this is the culture, the current media culture in Sri Lanka, and it has been further exemplified. It has manifested itself now into intimidation and harassment and a murder not only of the free press, but it has now transcended into the judiciary as well. And the case, the removal, the unconstitutional removal of Shirani Bandaranayake as Chief Justice is just one more example of Sri Lanka's steady decline into insanity. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. These so-called breakfast meetings did take place even during my tenure as editor-in-chief of the Sunday Leader. I did attend 2 such meetings and then I stopped going because frankly, I felt that the indignity of the whole exercise, I decided I would not be a part of that. And yes, editors and publishers are summoned. The president sits there like some kind of, quite honestly, my impression of that meeting was somebody like a drug lord sitting there, and and everybody sitting around that table more or less mute, apart from a couple of journalists like myself who would ask questions, so we were not popular. Everybody else just sat there mute. And then it is followed by a breakfast meeting, by breakfast rather, or lunch on one occasion. And the president just says the most atrocious, the most absurd statements are made at this meeting. And you have editors and publishers and journalists sitting there just taking it, not even daring to cross-question him or to question him at all. And then they just have that meal with him, they shake his hand, and they go back and write a sunshine report. So yes, these meetings are taking place, and that I can confirm. Absolutely. I would think by doing what you are doing right now and perhaps or increasing or intensifying that effort to basically make the world aware as to how serious the situation is in Sri Lanka, just saying it as it is, because the level of disinformation that is being perpetrated by the government through the media in Sri Lanka is absolutely shocking. It is unprecedented. It is a level that has, I don't think, ever been seen before in the country. Parliament is no longer, as I said when you asked me a previous question, I think I said Parliament is no longer a legislative body that can hold the government accountable. These are the facts. This is the way it is in Sri Lanka, and we need for the world to understand that this is the situation back in Sri Lanka. I mean, this once proud, independent and internationally acclaimed judiciary and democracy of the country has been dealt a body blow of unimaginable magnitude. So we have begun an era of unbridled authoritarian presidential rule. And this needs to be told to the world. And it is organizations like yours and other international media and human rights organizations that can get this message across. And hopefully, there may be, whether it can have create some kind of ripple effect that can save Sri Lanka as a nation, we can only hope for.